You don't choose where you're born, but it's your responsibility to choose the country that will give you and your family your dream life. O podcast para todo profissional brasileiro que deseja deixar o Brasil dentro de sua profissão. Seja bem-vindo à segunda temporada do Brazilian Expat Podcast. Eu vou começar somente em português. I'm only going to start this live streaming in Portuguese. Só para cumprimentar todos vocês que chegaram até aqui. Estou muito contente de estar trazendo tanto a Flor quanto a Maia para falar com a gente sobre uma perspectiva de recrutamento internacional para os brasileiros. And that's where it ends. No more Portuguese for now. We just say hi to everybody. Maya.
Hello.
Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. It's been 3 months on the making since I first talked to Flor, and I said it would be so amazing to bring 2 recruiters into this channel. We are Brazilians aiming to build an international career. There are so many talented people here who are actively looking at developing themselves and making sure that they understand that there is a possibility for them to find a job overseas, and no one better than 2 recruiters to come here and have an open conversation about it. So once again, thank you for accepting the invitation. Should I hand over to Flor so that you can introduce yourself to everybody here?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks a lot. I'm really excited. So really quick introduction. My name is Flor, nooit gedacht. I don't speak Portuguese. I just learned one word actually. I'm Dutch actually. So I've been born in the Netherlands. I guess I did quite an international career. Like I studied international business and languages. I did an internship in France. I did an internship in London. I lived in Barcelona for 1.5 years for work and moved to London around 3 years ago now, and working in London as a tech recruiter. And since not that long ago, I've actually started to work on the American market. So I'm doing tech recruitment now, mostly for San Francisco Bay Area. And I have been placing within my career a lot of people around the world for international clients. So from people from Brazil, Romania, Russia, India. And I think it's especially placing people from another country, being so grateful for having the opportunity to work and to find a job and to live in the Netherlands, for example, and to move there with their family is just amazing. And I think I can share a lot of information and knowledge and some experiences of the past few years.
That's
making
amazing.
it possible for people.
You're getting these people ready. You're getting these people ready. One thing that really resonates, and Maya is going to introduce herself now, is the fact that we all have an international background, right? Neither of us are in our home countries. So, which means we always dreamed of finding a role overseas and living a different life than the one that was presented to us when we were born. And I think having that feeling and that emotion also helps talking about international career. So, without further ado, Maya.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us, Vini. Obrigada. That's also how my Portuguese extends. I'm Maya. I'm originally from Belgium. I was born in Bruges. You may have seen the movie at some point. I studied in Belgium, then also studied a little bit in Spain, worked in South America, and eventually ended up in London, where I've been for the past 6 years or so. Working with Flor at Apollo Solutions, so we're a global recruitment agency. And I started just like Flor as a tech recruiter, and then eventually created my own job at the company. And now look after all of the, if the job's not there, just create it, as one tip from me to you. And look after all the marketing and the sales operations now. So just like Flor, a lot of experience with international careers, both from a personal and a professional level, really.
I really liked what you posted on LinkedIn, which was, by heart, you already wanted to have an international career, but it was truly hard, right? For you to find somebody who would be able to sponsor you and who would, give it a shot, because usually, especially when you're starting your career, it's quite hard, right? If you're a junior professional, for you to find a company that is willing to sponsor your visa, it's
Mhm.
almost a miracle, right? Most people who get sponsorship already have more experience. But this is all to say we're gonna dive a little deep into this topic. I just want to introduce myself quickly as well, because most part of the people who are here are from my channel. But for those who aren't, and probably you saw my LinkedIn, so I do work for Amazon. I'm a cloud transformation senior manager, but I'm not here at this capacity. I'm here talking about my business. I have a mentorship group called War International Career that stands for We Are Ready. And I've been mentoring fellow Brazilian high qualified professionals to actually, first of all, believe that there is an opportunity for them to find a role overseas. And secondly, to get qualified and make sure that they, find that role. And by now, we're nearly 18,000 people, which is absolutely crazy. And in the program, we are reaching 400 people, out of which over 50 Brazilians are already well qualified and managed to get their international opportunity. So very grateful to be here. Very grateful, to, again, for the both of you to accept this invitation. And I think it's time for us to dive a little deeper into this topic, because when I first moved to Europe, it was back in
Yeah.
2013. So I was 26 years old. There was no other person. I used to work for a company which you probably know, British Telecom. Um, and there was no other Brazilian or anybody from South America who could get a work permit, right?
Mm.
I had a lot of support to actually get a work permit. The leadership teams really loved me, so I was one of the very few people who managed to get that. But along the way, 10 years ahead of it, right now, it almost seems like if you have the right skill, it doesn't matter where you come from.
Yeah,
Do you agree with that?
I definitely agree with that. So I think, so speaking about the Netherlands, right, where that was the country where I built, did the DevOps and SRE, the technical market there. So we were working a lot with some really big banks, some big companies or tech companies that are smaller. But the
Mhm.
Netherlands is a really, really small country. It's only 17 million
17
people,
million people. Yeah.
right? And these companies are really international. So when the economy is like booming, they just don't have like not nearly enough people in that small pool of the Netherlands that they can use. Like some need thousands and thousands of really highly skilled people. So I think especially after COVID as well, during COVID and after COVID, the borders are less strict, and there are a
Yeah.
lot of smaller businesses that actually tap into making it more easy to hire people from abroad. So, for example, for businesses that are based in the Netherlands but want to hire from Brazil, and make all the paperwork happen if they're a smaller company. Um, so yeah, there's a really really big need for highly skilled people, and I think in every different industry, tech, but also for in the legal industry or in
Mhm.
the audit industry or in the governance industry. So um, it is definitely easier. I have been placing really quite a lot of, like, I think 50% of the people I placed are actually uh, from another country.
Are you kidding
Uh,
me?
yeah,
50%.
it is a really large portion, and one of the reasons is that I'm a tech recruiter, so it's within
Yeah.
tech, and tech, you just don't have enough technical people in the Netherlands, because a lot
Mhm.
of Dutch people also do marketing or art or communications, like me. They're not really
Yeah.
technical. So, there's not a vast majority of skill sets sometimes there. And what I also think is quite good to know for everybody that is listening here is that Brazil and Latin American countries are really on the top list for companies to hire from as a
Damn.
part of the world
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Flora, can you say that again?
I can say that again, Vinny.
We love
Can you
you,
say that again?
Brazil.
People, honestly, when I was speaking to these clients, and also from my own experience,
Yep.
Brazil and Latin American country, but also, for example, Portugal. Um, the experience that my clients and I have with people from that area, the people are, I don't want to box people into one corner,
No,
but the
no,
experience
let's
are
just go for it.
so good. Hardworking, smart, warm, loyal, like eager, committed, like honestly. So one of the hubs that I would go to indeed to source for really strong talent is Brazil. Um, and I think it's just really good to know. I'm not making this up. This is really a really it's because it's a really big country, but also um, yeah, just really good experiences with
That's phenomenal to hear, and I think a lot of people who are here watching and listening, it just explodes, right? Something blows up in their minds because we have something that I tend to call the underdog syndrome,
yeah
right? It's not even the
yeah
imposter syndrome; it's the underdog syndrome because we're just not recognized, right? We're just not well known
yeah
for exporting talent. Apart from the football players, you see that. I wish that every Brazilian could look at an interview as, okay, you're also a football player, you're also a talent. People like you because you are Brazilian, but we have this underdog feeling that we are not enough, or that there will not be, as soon as you reach to the recruiter, they will not be willing to accept us.
yeah
And the natural next question is going to be, do you have a permit? Because we're
Mhm.
not going to sponsor your permit. So anything that you guys can go a little deeper, because
Yeah.
right now we have this pool of talent, and an analogy that I tend to make is that before, right, every company used to fish in a local lake,
Mhm.
right? And then we spoke about this, Flora, and now they want to use a global ocean, right? They want to be able to fish in a global ocean, but at the same time, are people really developing the right skills to be able to be part of this entire journey? So I would love for you to actually comment a little bit on, what if somebody who's here and never even, right, went through their mind that they can just apply for a role that is
Mhm.
on LinkedIn? Is there anything, because some roles don't have a description saying, I accept sponsorship, I don't accept sponsorship. What is your guidance for these people who are stepping back instead of stepping forward?
Yeah. Um, I think it's there are like two parts of this question, I guess, because um, I think the first part has more to do with know the industry that you are in, try to do a little bit of research. What is the niche skill set you see that is advertised for? So understand a little bit more about that. What are the niche skills that people are looking for? Do you have that? Can you get some courses to do that? That's one part. On the other part, it's um, do you apply if it says nothing about we hire or we don't hire? I guess um, for example, I know from in the Netherlands there is a list that the migration office just has as a PDF where you see exactly
Hmm.
if every company that can sponsor, you see that sponsor. So I can share that with you, Vini. Maybe you can share that
Yep.
with the group. So there are lists of companies that actually do sponsor, so you already know that they are sponsor. Um, if you're not sure, I
Go
would
for it.
I would still go
Go
for it.
for it.
Go for it.
And actually, even if they do say, and many of my clients and fellow recruiters might not thank me for this, even if it does say we don't offer sponsorship and you're a really good match for that role, I'd still go for it, because companies change their minds. And there's such a huge skill shortage and talent shortage. If you've got the talent that they can't find, they might change their mind on the sponsorship thing, and then you're in their inbox already. So just go for it. There's no harm in trying anyway and applying and putting yourself forward, because if you don't put yourself forward, they're not going to know about you. So there's literally you don't make a chance anyway. You don't stand a chance.
No, definitely. And also, even if you are rejected and they say, oh, you're in Brazil, do you need sponsorship? And you're like, yeah, I do need. And they, I don't know, hang up the phone on you. Or I don't know. Just keep on going, right? Because indeed there are companies that don't sponsor, and you might also have recruiters that can be even a little bit rude to you, but don't get discouraged, because I can guarantee you there are companies that are looking and paying a lot of money to look for people like you, for recruiters. Yeah, definitely apply.
I just have a quick example here, because I'll try to get your mind into the Brazilian way of working, right? And for us, I think because this is so new to us, and the only reference that we have when it comes to work permit is whenever we apply for a tourist visa to the US. And if you check the number of people that are denied a visa to the US, even as a tourist, it makes people think that they're not even enough to visit a country, right? It messes up with our whole mindset when we think about moving abroad, right? And the reality in Europe, mainly in Europe, is very different, because so many employers are putting themselves forward to actually sponsor a visa. And even when they're not in position to sponsor a visa, I had a case, and I'm not sure if she's here watching. There's a student from one of my classes that she applied for this company. They loved her, very small company in the UK, and she is a data privacy analyst. And they loved her so much that they said, you know what, if you wait, we're going to apply for, to be able to sponsor somebody. And the process took 2.5 months. They paid, all the fees, and she was there in 6 months. And then, she moved. It wasn't the right job. After a year, she resigned. And then the same thing happened again. She applied for another company who didn't have the right to sponsor her, and they went into that route of sponsoring her. So this is all to say, if they really love you, and if the company really thinks that you're the right person for the role, they're going to go for their stuff.
Absolutely. And I think I was actually in America last year, and I was quite nervous indeed to get that tourist visa. So I can imagine that it's a bit scary. You feel like maybe not welcome. Thankfully, it was all accepted. But
I think it's really important to know your value, and what you can bring to the table, and really look at your skill set and your achievements, and know what they're worth. It will help you with your confidence, but it will also help you identify the right opportunities to go for, and hopefully convince people that you're worth changing that rule for. It could be a language that you speak, a particular technology that you've got experience with, an industry as well. So a lot of the people that we tend to relocate from Brazil, they've got particular industry experience that is so rare, especially in Europe, that we can't find locally. So if you know that, you can use that and really target companies in Europe or the States or wherever you want to go, and be quite targeted about your search, and because you know they're going to be wanting that kind of experience, or a language as well. We didn't ever realize that Dutch would be such a sought after skill here in the UK.
Such an exotic skill in the UK.
I had no idea, but apparently it is. So I really focused on Dutch speaking roles, because I knew that was kind of my only X factor that I had, fresh out of university, just a linguistics degree. I had nothing really else to offer, but I knew Dutch. So I was just using that as my leverage. So really knowing your value and what differentiates you from others, I think that will help with your confidence and convincing people that you're worth investing.
I also think, Maya, that on top of that, and I think we should deep dive also a little bit on how can they use the power of the wizard LinkedIn, because I think people think that LinkedIn is only a recruitment tool, and I tend to say that LinkedIn is a knowledge management tool. is a networking tool, right? You can use LinkedIn to actually understand how many roles are available in each location, what are the requirements for these roles. And to be honest with you, this kind of magnitude only reached the current state a few years ago. When I
Yeah.
started applying for roles back in 2013, we had like monsterjobs.com,
Yeah.
right? It was a horrible platform.
Yeah.
It gave you nothing, and nobody knew if whether or not, how many positions were, there were no filtering. So LinkedIn is coming with that kind of depth. But before we go into it, there's one more thing that happened, I think, during the pandemic, which is really helping a lot of people. The concept that you don't need to be physically anywhere for an interview.
Yeah.
You, after the pandemic, digital nomad visas started, right? Started in Estonia, it went all the way to Germany, now Dubai, Thailand, like everywhere you can also become a digital nomad. And I feel that the borders are really falling apart, and that the skill that you have is truly your new passport. And a lot of people are really not believing in that. So it's not only about if whether or not countries are open for you, because right now we can just say I have examples, practical examples of people who don't have like 10 years of experience. I'm talking 2, 3, 4 years of experience, and they can already be qualified as highly skilled migrants,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because
and
the
nobody knows.
Yeah, I think an example of that is as well. There are often like two options when you are in Brazil and you want to work for let's take the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So you can indeed apply, or a recruiter finds you and have the interviews remotely, and then relocate to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
But there also, and that's since COVID, it's just booming. You can be hired within Brazil, and then there's a remote. Like
Remote job.
I'm not a wizard on that, like how it exactly
Yeah.
works, because it depends per country. But you can be hired remotely, and for example, after 6 months or after a year, you can either decide to stay remote or move if you prefer that. So there's a lot of companies, small startups that actually tap into that possibility.
Absolutely.
Facilitate that.
Even multinationals. I think a lot of our clients have done that, where they've hired remotely from further afield, and candidates have just started and stayed working remotely 3 to 6 months, sometimes even a year, before they would make the move. Sometimes because of just a sponsorship process, it would take a while to sort it all. But there's loads of different options to make it happen, really, also remotely.
And if we go deep in, well, I think all the subjects are connecting to one another. And I think this final connection is really important, which is if you use LinkedIn to your advantage, so as a knowledge tool instead of a recruitment tool, and I don't know, let's say somebody who works in marketing, right? And that person has related and relevant experience, speaks English, already worked for a couple multinational companies in Brazil. The first step for that person is not just, go ahead and apply for every single role you see, but it's about making a thorough analysis on which country is going to offer you a role that is more aligned to your skills, right? Because I think the hassle of your job is finding so many people who don't even read the job description and just apply, right? Instead of just going a step back.
That's pet peeve.
Yeah, that's.
Go for it.
I can definitely give as well a few tips, I guess, on. I think indeed, let's say you work in marketing or in whatever industry, and you have LinkedIn to your right. LinkedIn is obviously just for everybody to use. I think dive into the niche skills and see what niche skills you can sharpen, but also which country do you actually prefer to relocate to, or what kind of top 2 or top 3 countries do you wanna work in, and apply for job. I mean, you can maybe even say that better, because you can use like Boolean searches to.
Oh, bring it in.
Jobs
Man, I didn't even know about these searches. Go for it.
Yeah, I think that one's really key. I think just about LinkedIn as a whole, it's an enormously powerful tool. It's a networking tool. It's a job board. It's obviously massively grown as a place where people advertise roles, and it's going to boom even more. And it's a social media tool. And I think a lot of people sort of don't really maximize what they can do with LinkedIn. And if you use it in those three ways, you can really maximize the tool really to your advantage. So from a job board perspective, obviously that's what we're talking about now, identifying the right types of jobs, applying for the jobs that you've got the right skill set for. But having said that, if you match 70% of the criteria, still apply. Especially we know that females, they can really sort of hold back if they don't feel like they meet all the criteria. Let me tell you, do not hold back. If you've got.
Can I just mention one very important thing here? Out of my community, right? The ones that I'm actively mentoring, over 80% are powerful females.
Yeah.
Over 80% of the people who are willing to relocate from Brazil are powerful females. I have seen so many of these girls. Yes, so many of these girls. They are the ones getting the job, and then their husband is resigning and following her.
Yeah,
right. And the husband is a supporter. So you are communicating here with a very vast, network of female Brazilians who are willing to relocate
and very wanted.
Yeah,
because especially within tech, but I think it's not only tech. It's across industries, and my clients will ask, and it's maybe not the most ethical thing to say, but I would really love to have a female. Really love to have a female.
See diversity in our shortlist. We always try and get a good mix, but obviously there's such a shortage of, especially in the tech market, because that's the market I know, such a shortage of female talent. And interestingly enough, we find that in further afield outside of Europe, there's almost a bigger pool of female talent.
Yeah.
And they're incredibly talented. And then it comes down to educating the client. Like, look, this is the person that you need in your team. So apply for the job, even if you don't match all the criteria. Just go for it. Absolutely go for it.
And you can actually, I think, go a little step further, I guess. So if you have done your research in terms of what are my skill sets, what are the niche skill sets within my market, what have I done? You have like a top 3 of countries that you want to focus on. You know how to search for certain jobs, by certain keywords you want to focus on, or countries you want to focus on. What I would do, it's a bit cheeky, but you can also see who's the hiring manager, who's maybe if it's a small startup, just email the founder. Or connect with people that are already working there. You don't have to say I want a job, but you can just say, hi, I read this job description, really interesting. Are you open for having a virtual coffee? I'm open to networking, to connecting. It sounds maybe a little bit strange, but people like Vinny, you actually reached out to me over LinkedIn.
I did.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not, who's this guy? I'm like, okay, interesting. Yeah, let's go eat a bitterball in on the table. So I think even we're talking to here like very highly skilled people today, right? And they just, it is a shame because they don't know how needed and how wanted they are. And they might be even hesitate to take a first step, and the first step is maybe applying for a role. But actually should maybe be more the mindset of, hey, I'm actually really wanted. I'm not only applying for a role, but I'm also taking a step further and just networking and just.
I think the networking element is really important. So network can be so powerful. I think a lot of the opportunities that we've had, or even created for other people, have been because you're talking to one person, they mention something to you, and then that brings you to another person, and they help you out. And always ask, who do you know? Is there anything advice that you can give me, kind of like we're doing right now. Constantly just talk to people, plant seeds, pick their brains. Don't be shy. Connect on LinkedIn with peers in your industry, senior level people. because you're already sort of planting those seeds without necessarily just harassing them for a job. You're just building a network. You're just talking like you would in real life and face to face.
I don't want to stop this topic because this speaks to so many of us, so many. Um, and I keep going back to the underdog syndrome, that if people are already afraid of applying for a job,
Yeah.
let alone apply for a job, can you imagine how do we feel about reaching out to somebody?
Yeah,
And
I can imagine it's a big step, to be honest.
And
It is.
I think I would go back to that point of know your worth and know, you're just talking to another human being. They're just human, just like you. And, you've got something in common, which is what you do. And typically people are passionate about what they do. If you're not, then maybe you should consider a career change. But if you're passionate about the same thing, you've got something in common, and it doesn't need to be, a full-blown conversation straight away. But you're passionate about the same thing. You're human. Just connect and get that going.
Yeah, and you just want to have like a first conversation or a first interview, and then they can just see how lovely and strong and creative you are. And then we have seen a lot of examples of um, companies and clients that went out of their way and beyond to get that person over. And for like a big company or even like a successful startup, paying your fee is not a big deal often. For some companies it is, but it's maybe only like a few thousand euros or US dollars. Or I think the US is still a little bit more difficult to get in than in Europe. Let's be clear. I think the Netherlands or Germany, Belgium,
even the UK now, because of
even
Brexit,
the UK,
they're actually sometimes more keen to look outside of the European Union and sponsor people from there than sponsor people from the EU, which is the world upside down compared to 2 or 3 years ago. But for some reason, it's now easier to do that than to sponsor people from the EU.
It's a very good topic, Maya, which we should get to as well. Not only in the UK, but the fact that there's always, at least for Brazilians, the US was always step one, right? I think Brazilians have a passion for the American dream that was instilled in us due to movies and so on and so forth. If you ask me, I would not live in America. Like, you can give me whatever you want. If you're used to the quality of life of the Netherlands, and I know you laughed, Floor, okay?
I don't know why.
We don't know why, but the quality of life in the Netherlands is so amazing, and so many people have no idea that you can just move to the Netherlands and speak English. You can move to Lithuania and speak English. You can move to Hungary and speak English. And they just limit themselves into going to the same countries that are not very open for them as professionals. So what you just told me, I think lots of people have no idea, even though Brexit happened. And during that period, everybody heard about Brexit. But now people don't know. Like, if you're in the UK, an employer in the UK needs to sponsor somebody from the EU.
We would not be able, they would need to sponsor us both. But we joined before the Brexit.
Yeah. And even though I think I don't know this for sure, but I think from what I know, the sponsorship process is easier for EU candidates, but because it's all fairly new, they're almost more keen to go through the sponsorship process for people from further afield, because it's a known process. It's, they know the ins and outs of it. And it's really interesting to see that shift happening in the market as well.
And it's happening right before our eyes. I think with Brexit, the post-pandemic world, the fact that it doesn't truly matter where you're from, what it really matters is your skill set. So I think the first part, and you're really, really, even though, guys, we literally spoke for a few minutes before the, this podcast, and we're so aligned when it comes to this very, matter. It doesn't matter at all which passport do you hold. What matters is really the skill set that you bring. But let's not underestimate the skill set that you need to bring, right? It's not like you're speaking a bit of English and you can just move. You're have a year of experience and you can just move, right? It's not a process that every single person can go for. But if you do your homework, if you speak good English, and when I say good English, all of us here have a specific accent, a mild accent, because we're not native people. But you need to be able to communicate. You don't need to speak like the former Queen of England, but you need to be able to communicate. Second, at least from my perspective, right? You don't need to have 10 years of experience to be qualified
No.
as a highly skilled worker, right? You don't have to, but you need to have relevant experience. So if you spend your entire life working for a national company in Brazil that nobody in overseas will know, perhaps instead of just going for going and applying for a new role overseas, why not join in a multinational company in your own country? Why not acquiring a little bit of a stamp, an international stamp, so that recruiters from overseas are going to look at you and say, that guy worked for Amazon in Brazil. Okay, let's have a chat with him, instead of that guy worked for, I don't know, have you ever heard about Mercado Livre?
No,
No, right?
no.
It's huge. It's let's say the Amazon from Latin America. But if you get a resume from a guy who works for Mercado Livre, you're gonna be like, should I go? But if you get a resume from somebody who worked for a multinational company,
Yeah.
it's relevant experience, right?
Yeah, I think a big name goes a long way, but it's also the actual international exposure that you get in those
As well.
companies that will help you transfer well to another country.
Do you think it would be interesting for me to tell the people that are listening, like how I would look at a resume, and what
Bring it in.
what would?
Oh,
Yes.
it's all coming out now.
All right, are you ready?
Hold on to your seats.
No, I think a few tips that I have when it comes to a resume. Obviously, just a format, right? It needs to be sort of clear. Your name, a little introduction, and I would definitely say in that introduction something like internationally focused, would be happy to relocate to, and something that what you're searching for and what your key skill set is. We love to see something that is called longevity, and that means that you have not been jumping from one role to another after 7 or 8 months, but you've stayed within each company around 1.5 years or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. And also when you have made a promotion within a certain company, you can clearly state that it actually was a promotion. Clear title, and also what I would say, Mercado Libre.
Mercado Libre.
Sounds actually quite an interest. So if it's, I would definitely
It's a massive company.
I would definitely put one sentence in underneath each work experience you have, what kind of company it is. And also, what is it? Because it's honestly, it sounds like actually quite an interesting company. Because an international company, sure, it may be even, even better. But yeah, I have not even the people from Brazil that I've placed and moved to another country. We're not even working for international companies. It's absolutely not a must. Might be even a plus, but so really state what kind of company it is. I know as well. Oh yeah, one other point per each experience that you have, show the achievements. So not only Python, React, auditing, not just keywords, but what did you achieve? How did you use certain skills? Because we literally look like keywords, and we want to understand what did you do in the role, what impact did you make, what.
Yeah.
I think a mistake is to just list your responsibilities, which is like a job description, right? We're not interested in that. We want to know what difference you made, what was your impact,
Individual.
Yeah, exactly.
Individually,
what
not
did
my
you
team.
do? Yeah,
It's
all about you.
you.
Be selfish.
Yeah.
There's no one in your team. It's just you. That's really really important. But the keywords are still important because it's quite often how we find you. So if you want to be known for something, make sure it's mentioned several times throughout your CV as well.
Absolutely,
Can I
yeah.
ask a question about, because you're talking about you being able to find somebody.
Mhm.
Now, when you go for your scan, right, can you choose the countries you're going to find these people? And do
Yeah.
you usually go global, or do you start local, and then the harder it gets, the more you open up your funnel?
It really depends on the role. So we have worked for example, Signify.
Hmm.
It's a huge international manufacturing company. They produce highly tech manufactured products. We knew already it's not even worth it looking in the Netherlands because we probably don't find that skill set. So I would
Yeah.
actually put on LinkedIn, go to LinkedIn, put in Brazil, for example, for one of
Hmm.
the locations, and put in the search terms, the keywords. So the keywords will scrape LinkedIn profiles. So that's why it's important to have these keywords on your resume because it's LinkedIn is a scraping tool in
Yeah.
terms of how they search. Um, so yes, I would search for specific um, countries.
Yeah.
If it's a local role and they don't want it or they can't sponsor, obviously I would search
Then you
for it.
shrink it up.
Yeah.
Because there is a common practice, okay? There is a
Hmm.
common practice of people just updating their profile to the country where they want to live, because usually, and I have to say it out loud, it works,
Yeah.
right? Usually it works because recruiters start reaching out to them,
Yeah.
and obviously, right, when they start talking about it, and then the recruiter's like, okay, can I invite you to an interview? And then they have to reveal it. Oh, yes, you can, but I do not live in the Netherlands, for example. I live in Brazil. I just put my LinkedIn in there, and you scoop me in. And it's usually sometimes the recruiter is going to say, fine, okay, let's go for it. I'm happy I found you. And sometimes the recruiter is going to be a little pissed off and say, we're not off to a good start.
Mhm.
What is your opinion about that? And it can be divergent opinions, right? Because it's
It
all
is.
about
It
people.
is.
Yeah. I'm personally not a huge fan.
But I do. But I do understand.
Yeah, but I get it because it's like you got to do what you got to do, right? And
Yeah.
just whatever it takes. But I think it then needs to be made very clear from the initial conversation.
Yeah.
When the recruiter reaches out, by the way, I'm not actually based there, because it could create an environment of dishonesty and distrust, and that's never a good start. But
Yeah.
that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. Um, it's. I have been the annoying recruiter that was looking for a local because I just knew it has to be a local and be
Yeah.
like, oh, you're actually from Lithuania. I don't
Yeah.
know. And we booked a call and time is precious, but on the other hand, I think you can, if you know definitely I want to go to the Netherlands, that's
Mhm.
where I want to be. I think you can do it, but I would definitely put it in your LinkedIn profile somewhere. That you are
Brazilian willing to relocate to, I don't know.
exactly.
Yeah. Or at
Exactly.
least on the first interview, be honest. Or on the first interaction, to be
Yeah.
honest. Hey, I am not there. I just position my LinkedIn so that I could be found by recruiters. Because at the end of the day, I have even successful interviews.
Yeah.
There are people from my program that have been found on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They were not in the country. They were invited to the interview and they succeeded.
Yeah.
So for me, when people ask me that question, I'm always a little bit, I don't know what to answer, because is it politically incorrect? Yes. But
Yeah.
as long as you're honest, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you are invited to the interview, I think that would be what I would recommend. But obviously, we all understand it. I just wanted to have an opinion from somebody who is actively recruiting.
No, I would say you have to be a little bit cheeky to get under the yeah.
I
I
love
mean,
how vulnerable this conversation is, because
I
I told the both of you that
know.
we look at recruiters as the gate. You are
Yeah,
the first gate, and
yeah,
usually that gate is closed.
yeah,
So it's going to be really hard for us to get there and open it, and understand that whenever you're going to get a resume from somebody who doesn't have a work permit, you're going to be the one to close that door. And you're saying to all of us here that that's not the case.
I think we open the door as well, because if we identify that you're the one that our client needs, and if they're not looking to sponsor, we'll also be the ones to convince them to do it. And to educate them and to say, this is what the market's offering you. This is what you can get. And if you want what you're looking for, everything on your list, you're going to have to do this. So we do open the door as well.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a guy. He is from Romania actually. Applied to my role. It was a very niche role for a big bank in the Netherlands. They were not really. They didn't really like to sponsor for the role, also because the hiring manager didn't have the knowledge about how it would all work with it, and he had in his mind a little bit like, oh, this is going to be difficult. They need to relocate. They might jump out of the process when it's actually going to happen, and they might say no, and then you go through all this time. But he was just a perfect candidate. His skill set, very niche, perfect. He showed commitment right from the start. Like I asked him, okay, do a little bit of research about the Netherlands, right?
Mm-hmm.
He came back with a lot of research. So, we hired him, and he relocated, and he had just 2 years of experience.
Wow.
And he was so excited. He could live in Amsterdam or close to Amsterdam. We definitely changed his life. So and convinced also the big bank, like, okay, this is what you have to do. It's not that deep, and this is how many actually candidates are there in the world with this skill set. You're not going to find this person anywhere else, probably.
You just mentioned one thing that I never thought about it, which is sometimes you need to educate the hiring managers. Simply because they didn't have an experience working with anybody from overseas, because sometimes this happens, right? And in the new world, I mean, it's hard to say it, but all the beautiful first world countries, you guys are going to have to swallow all of us diversity, because honestly, now it's no longer cute to have a diverse workforce. It's no longer cute. It's no longer politically correct only. Research after research is showing that the more diverse your team is, the more financial results you bring to the table. So, but still, so many people who reach managerial positions, I'm sorry to say, especially the older people, right, who didn't have the opportunity to work with many people from overseas, sometimes there needs to be a little bit of education. And I never thought about it, that it's also part of your role to actually get to those people and say, hey, I know that you're just used to working with people from here, right? But if you're working for a global company, you need to have some diversity in here. And to be honest with you, even if we look at timelines, let's put it a quick example, right? In Brazil, I'm not sure if you guys know, but we don't have notice periods.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, so we have optional notice periods, which is usually a month, right? Aviso prévio. This is what we say in Portuguese. If you decide not to fulfill your aviso prévio, you can, but it means you're not going to get some of your rights, financial rights for that company. But if we resign from one day to another in Brazil, and then you start a work permit process, it usually takes from 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
But it means that in 3 months, the person is going to be there working. Whereas here, when I have to hire somebody new, and that person is already working, it is usually already 2 months to 3 months of notice period.
Yeah.
So for me, it almost doesn't matter when it comes to the timing if I'm hiring somebody from overseas or if I hire somebody from here, unless the person that I'm hiring is unemployed. Then it's quick. Then it's quick. I can just place somebody for tomorrow. So I think the mindset that, if I hire somebody from overseas, it's going to take much more time. No, it doesn't.
No, and also, like we said earlier, they can start remotely. The amount of time we just, either the company sends the kit to the person, or we facilitate that, and we get the kit across to, the laptop and everything, we get it across, and they just onboard remotely, which is a brilliant thing from COVID, that a lot of companies finally came around to onboarding remotely. And they can just start, without even being in the country. So even that is sort of a non-issue these days for most companies.
Them. I think, yeah, so many things you're mentioning to me that I never even took into account, but all of it is very positive for
Yeah.
whoever is willing to relocate and for
Yeah.
whoever is
Just
willing
wanna,
to get a work permit.
pick up on something that Flora also said, which was a mistake that I made at the time when looking for a job abroad, and that is showing your commitment, because you are a risk to this company, right? So many things that could happen during a relocation, especially if you're moving with a family or a partner. You know, it's not just, you know, moving jobs, going to a different city. There's a huge risk that they take with you, and it's really showing that commitment and showing you've done your research, and you know the difference in cost of living. You know what you'd need to earn. You know, you've looked at where you'd live. Who do you know over there? And that can make a huge difference in convincing someone that you are ready to make that move, and you've done all you need to do, and you're ready to go, basically.
Absolutely. No, this is really, really important. Let me do the following because we're 9 minutes to be over. So I think it's really nice for us to answer a few questions that people have here. So can we start before we do a closure? Because this has been already very, very good. I think everyone is already messaging here. Why don't we start with Juliana? Can you guys see? Can you guys see the questions?
No.
See the question.
I'm gonna read it for you, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Juliana is saying, hello, how do you recruiters analyze when we have a gap year to improve our English and personal skills? And how do we describe it in our CV and LinkedIn? And she's saying, P.S. I lived in the Netherlands and it was the most amazing year of my life. Looking forward to getting a chance to live there again.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, I would just very clearly state it in your resume. It is a gap year, what you've done, what you've learned, what you've gained.
Yeah, the worst thing is
Be
to leave it
transparent.
out, because it then creates that, you know, what happened in that year, why were you unemployed, and switch it and make it a selling point, really. You know, you've taken a year out to go and learn English or enhance your skill set, and just clearly state it, and then there's no really questions about it.
It's really interesting, this question, because the Brazilian market doesn't look at this in a good way, right? There are two things that it's important for me to bring to light on the Brazilian market. Uh, right, the Brazilian market usually understands that you need to have a very linear career path, right? So, for example, whoever works in IT has to have a degree in IT, a master's in IT, and then they want to see that whole growth. Whereas here in Europe, I mean, my boss has a degree in philosophy. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter what you graduated in. What it really matters is that, you know, your whole career path integrates somehow, right? And at the same time, the whole process of, oh, in Brazil, if you take a year off, you're tagged as lazy. Whereas here, if you take a year off, you're tagged as brave because you're getting the hell out to learn new cultures, to study a new language. And that's why Brazilians sometimes, they're even afraid of putting a gap year because they're going to be tagged as lazy. So just wanted to give that to the both of you, because this sometimes is a hassle for our country.
Yeah, I would actually even say in it why you did it, right? So because you are internationally focused and you would like to explore cross
Good
borders
point.
and just really put that in as such. Yeah, definitely.
Very good. Let's go for the next one. So this one comes from Bruno, and Bruno is saying, "Good afternoon. I'm a recent graduate in Bachelor of Business Administration here in Brazil. I have a dual nationality, also European nationality. I speak English fluently, and I wish to give my first step towards an international career, but so far I haven't been getting good feedbacks. Do you have any tips for achieving a first experience internationally?"
I'm always thinking with a graduate, when you actually just graduated, you can also look at these special programs, traineeships, that are literally designed to actually rotate you within a year in a company and do 3 different departments, for example. So it's a paid traineeship, and I would maybe go for either a really, really big global like company that hire and have these traineeship graduation scheme programs.
Be interesting to find out what the feedback is, and
what is tried so far. Yeah,
because I was probably in quite a similar situation, and I just didn't understand. I've got the degree, I've got the languages. Why are you not hiring me? And it's because of how I was positioning myself in the interview, and it was because I clearly lacked direction. And people, companies want to know that you're choosing them and why you're choosing them, and your focus and your aspirations. And I just wasn't clearly sort of showing that and positioning myself in the right way. So it'd be interesting to see where it's sort of not going the right direction.
Yeah, Maya, one of the whole idea of my program started when I started asking people questions, right? And saying, why do you believe you're not getting to your first interview, or why do you believe you're failing? And 99% of the people came back to me and said, we don't know where we're making a mistake. We don't know. No recruiter or hiring manager is actually giving me feedback about it. So that's why every quarter in my program, I invite guests who are usually managers and directors, and we do simulation of interviews with at least 5 people on the program live.
That is so good.
So everybody comes in.
So important.
We prepare for that role, and usually, for me, it's crazy. I think we interviewed already over 50 people.
Yeah.
And out of those 50 people, over 25 made it after that interview because they felt, okay, this is where I was making a mistake. And usually it's, as you said, it's on how you position yourself. Is you're talking too much, listen a little bit more. Those basic things that have nothing to do with their career path or the knowledge. And I think this is really important what you said. And I'm sure he's going to be happy with the answer. Guys, we only have a few more minutes. Let me read a couple more questions. Can we get a little bit more specific here, since we have Flora and she is also a tech recruiter? So Mileni, she's talking about, in your opinion, are certifications important in the tech market in Europe? If I already have the experience, is that enough? Or do I need a specific certification? For example, she's a data scientist.
In my opinion, it's not that needed, to be honest. I don't really look at certifications. If you have a master science degree, amazing. If you have worked as a data science degree, you've worked as a data scientist. What I would do, actually, what is a really, really big one, side projects.
Yeah.
Anything you do in your weekends, in your evenings, in your mornings, in your lunch breaks, put it on.
They want to see passion.
Because that's passion.
Yeah.
And we are a sucker for passion. If we see a candidate that is working on the stuff that they're actually studied for, that they want to, it's their job and they have a passion for it, that's for me more important than certifications.
Well, and also the hiring managers, the clients, actually tell us we want to see that they do it outside of work as well, that we want to see them take initiative, we want to see their side projects. And if you don't do that, quite often, you're less favorable over other candidates. So that's huge, and you can show that on LinkedIn, on GitHub. There's all these other channels where you can show that off.
Your introduction in LinkedIn,
put it on your CV, links to
during the week if you do it right. So no, it's not a need at all.
I just need to position myself as Brazilian right now, because passion. Are you? Do you guys know which country you're talking to? Do you think we lack passion? We are the most passionate country of all.
They're right there.
That's why you have to apply.
Great, girls. Let's go for the final question, and then we do a quick closure. Is that okay if I extend a little bit, like 2-3 minutes? Are you okay?
Oh yeah, that's fine. Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have this is actually a question from Carol, but I think it's span around many other people here. So she recently moved to the UK, and she managed through a female only sponsorship for doing her master's, which is really nice. She got a full-on scholarship, and she managed to find a job right after it. She got the sponsorship for that job, but it didn't work out. Right? It didn't work out. It was only for 3 to 6 months. And she's almost reaching a point of having issues with her mental health. and she was very afraid of resigning because then it would show in her resume that she only stayed in the job for 6 months, and then for her to find a new job, it would be quite hard. Do you have any recommendation for her?
I think first of all, it's important to acknowledge that it's your first job. It's not always going to work out, and it's actually quite common that your first job might be a bit shorter because you're still figuring out what works for you, and it's hard to know that at that point. So I wouldn't be too worried about that short stint reflecting poorly on you.
No.
It's actually quite common, I would say.
Yeah, I think what's good to ask yourself is, maybe also talk to your manager, because it might be as simple as, okay, you might be not you might not feel the perfect fit for this role for whatever reason, but maybe somewhere else in the company, maybe by doing working with other. It's obviously where's it coming from that it's not a good fit, and I would always try to speak first with your manager and see if there's another opportunity within the company, and think long term. It's only your first job. It's only one job. So you
Yeah.
already had this experience as well, and probably better what does work and what doesn't work. So focus on what you've learned maybe from it, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah, I would add one more thing, and because in Brazil we also see a first job as you need to have the commitment to spend your entire life in that job. You cannot job hop. And honestly, even though I discourage people to leave their jobs within 6 months, there is one thing that she can use on her advantage, which is she can simply say, if this is really not a job for her, she can simply say it was a 6-month contract, right? It was a 6-month contract. It didn't get renewed, and I move forward. Instead of being in a place that is poisonous, that she didn't identify with the company, that can also work. And looking at the Brazilian standard for jobs, we don't have temporary contracts like that. So it's something that
she can definitely do that as well on her resume.
just coming up, coming out of my mind now. But ladies, listen, I don't want to consume more time than what I already reserved. I just really want to thank you for putting yourselves forward and opening the Pandora box of the recruitment world, which is so closed, I think, for for us Brazilians. I am so proud to see that. I mean, from last year to this year, there's been so many more people, qualified Brazilian professionals, looking for their first opportunity. So just for them to hear from the ones who are actually recruiting that there is a space for them, and that even though we are not a dominant expat country, whenever you get a Brazilian resume or a LinkedIn, you are eager, right, to look into it, and that we are not the underdog as we tend to believe that we are.
I'd say bring the Brazilian passion to your job search, and it will turn out really well.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, honestly. And I hope we were able to give some more insights or some tips or tricks or advice. But I think really believe in the fact that the Brazilian, especially the female, but also the man out there that are highly skilled, there is a really, really big market for you internationally, and especially in Europe. So go apply and get that experience. Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, we're in the World Cup moment right now, everybody in Brazil. So I think if I could have a dream that I'm gonna put it out to everybody in Brazil, is so that Brazilian professionals are as well known as the football players, and we have so much talent in the country. People are day in and day out, speaking English more and more. And with the borders coming down, I really would love, to go to any big company here in Europe and see that I'm no longer just a minority, right? It's really hard for me to find another Brazilian who believed in himself or in herself and took a step forward, because I believe that this nation has so much talent, guys, that it's time for us to go a step back and understand that we are valued as professionals, and that in the other side, whenever you see a Brazilian coming through, it's a positive message instead of I'm going to block you.
Absolutely. And I think even it's when we see resumes from Brazil, they have priority over other resumes because it is literally a hub where a lot of talent is coming from and is getting more known to startups and to corporates, especially in the Netherlands as well. So you're already building that image international.
I'm so happy to hear. I'm so
Absolutely.
happy to hear. Flor,
Yeah.
Maya, thank you so much. I hope this is not going to be the only time. I'm quite sure you're going to receive many messages from our followers, from members from War International Career, my company. But I'm sure the next year we're going to come up with something new.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you
We
so
will be
much.
delighted.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.